Fade to black.
Good morning, everybody, for another edition of Legit Fantasy Football. Waiting for our host, our fearless host, King Mike L. King, it looks like you're in black right now. I don't know if the camera's working this morning. Maybe the coffee hasn't kicked in yet.
Just had to get that camera switched, Brother Ray. Just had to get that camera switched. That's why I opened with you.
Yeah, it's top of the morning.
So, excuse me 1 second, Brother Ray. Hey, who'd you talk to? What's going on? It is me, Mike Lepre, King Mike L. This is Legit Fantasy Football Season 3, Volume 1. That's how long we've been doing it for Legit alone. It is June 5th, 2022. That is 06052022. It's Sunday morning, 11:06. I got to be honest, if I'm just being honest, it is by far the most difficult thing for me to do to get ready for this show. It's like I have to go to bed really early if I want to do this show because I'm old. Now, not to speak of old, but joining me as always, Brother Ray. What's up, Brother Ray? Welcome back.
It's interesting. We're starting to talk about fantasy football and football in general. And, everybody's concentrating on summer and let's go to the beach and let's work on that tan, maybe get it to the gym, a couple of more bicep curls because we don't want to embarrass ourselves on the beach. But
sun's out, guns out.
But some of us, all we're thinking about is what leagues we lost in fantasy football last year and what we can do to completely destroy the competition. That's what this show is for.
I'm with you. I'm with you because let me tell you something. Ever since I won that Legit Fantasy Football League, it's been a sticking reminder for everyone to make sure that you don't let the league jerk happen to win the league. Because then, in the wrong hands, right? In the wrong hands, power like that. I mean, have you seen the champ? You haven't even seen the champ's video he did yelling at Buddy where he's wearing mom's old bathrobe doing a wrestling promo. Oh,
no, I missed that. Gosh. You might have to play that.
Yeah, you might have to get to see that later. Jeez Louise. But speaking of wrestling robes, here he is. The Codfather, Mastradamus, M1, Matt.
Makes me want to vomit. The only thing that gives me any sort of relief is beating Brother Ray twice in that league. And I know he remembers it and hates it and wants to skunk me this year because of it. And I anticipate the league. And I have a sour taste in my mouth. And every time I see the title slap the champ's shoulder, Dubs cry, baby.
But I tell you, but it has worked because I've had people actually come up to me and ask me about the champ, and then I have to pretend like I don't know who he is, and that whole charade continues. But I've done that. I did that live. So, guys, since last we've spoken, we've planted a seed called Legit Fantasy Football, and then the Legit Podcast grew out of that, along with like 4 or 5 other shows. So we're kind of like the forefathers of the Legit Podcast game. Fantasy football is the Plymouth Rock upon which everything else stands. So getting ready for this season, this is what I wanted to talk about. Do you want to go over the teams, Brother Ray, and have a discussion on the three of us like we did last year on where we think those teams are going to be? Like, you want to do division by division and break teams down, or do you want to break the draft first? I'm going to let you pick because I know that I can go either way.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk teams if you guys want to talk teams, but what I had prepared for today was I have a couple of guys earmarked this year that I really think are going to win championships this year and give people a leg up. So for our dedicated viewers that are tuning in this early, I'd like to give them those guys today and so that they can go into their drafts and just dominate.
All right, how many do you have?
I have about 9 guys I was going to talk about.
Second year players?
It's combination of second year and sleeper types.
I would love to hear this, Matt. How about you?
Well, I mean, I got guys that will win championships also, but it's I got guys. That's the only thing that really sucks about being on the radio show with you guys, because I'm gonna tell you my guys who I think are gems, and I often feel like I'm gonna be right, but value is where I'm at. Like, I can see guys going up high in terms of wide receivers, where I think their number 2 will be more valuable at the spot, that you can get like a Jalen Waddle over a Tyreek Hill. And I think Jalen Waddle will provide much better dividends at a more consistent rate than a Tyreek Hill with a top pick.
All right, but you're more draft strategy. Brother Ray's
I am, but at the same time, it will change week by week. I would like to talk about teams, not necessarily about the drafts, but teams overall after the draft. Trey Lance is going to be a league winner this year. Once he gets the reins of the quarterback position in San Fran, they're always going to be a good team no matter what. But now he's got time and the tutelage under his belt to the point where it has to produce on the field, and he's going to get the opportunity. So I say put him on your roster somewhere. Like we said, it could be changing. We could have more reports. He's straight up the starter from week 1, and his stock will skyrocket.
All right, well then let's hurt it this way. Brother Ray, give us your 9 guys. You have the floor.
All right, yeah, let's start. We'll start with the running back position. 3 guys I wanted to talk about, and I'd like you guys to discuss as well. And a lot of times when you make these assessments, you have to look at it's not just about talent. A lot of times it's more about opportunity. These guys have shown the talent in the past, just haven't gotten the opportunity. So, guys, I would like to discuss in no particular order: Devin Singletary, Travis Etienne, and Cam Akers.
All right, let's start with NTN, because that one's, to me, the easiest one for me to understand with you. He should have been a number 1 last year, got hurt early in the season. James Robinson's the only guy right there that's any competition at all. So I could see NTN having a big year. Is that what you're looking at, Ray? Or do you think that injury actually is going to slow him down? He'd still be good.
I mean, he's coming off the injury, but Robinson's coming off a torn Achilles. So Etienne is already in shape. He's working out. He's going to be the starter from day 1. And we need to understand, too, he played, with Lawrence at Clemson. So there's familiarity there. He's going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield, and we know how valuable that can be in PPR leagues. He's going to be the guy from the get, and that team is going to be a lot better than they were last year. That team has talent. They will be a lot better this year, and he's going to be the main beneficiary. So I think he's going to explode. It's going to take a while for Robinson to get back up to speed, coming off an Achilles. So yeah, I think opportunity, talent, it's there in Jacksonville.
So Matt, you're a fan of Jacksonville. I think you'd lower the radio, Matt.
It's funny you're talking about NTN, right? Because he did play with Lawrence at Clemson, and it just hit me so big, because I remember them talking about how they were going to use the playbook of Clemson in the NFL. And there's so much that Travis Etienne Jr. does that James Robinson cannot. So when that injury happened to the Jaguars last year, look at it as ripping pages out of a book. That was huge. Significant loss.
I think the coach was the biggest problem, if we're going to be honest, with Jacksonville. I think the coach was an absolute
100%. Make it easy for the QB. Plays that you're normally doing, and have a guy do it, and you do it and feel for him. You do so much. But now you supplant him with James Robinson. Clearly not the running back Travis is. And if you look at Najee Harris, look at that this year from NTN, and you will be very happy with those statistics. That's what
Ray, give me Singletary, Ray.
Oh, Devin Singletary. A lot of people are going to panic. A lot of rookies in drafts this year are going to be looking at Cook, looking at Bills drafting Cook and saying, "Oh, Cook's going to come
got his
in.
little brother.
He's going to take the carries. He's, Dalvin's little brother. He's going to become the guy." He's not going to be the guy. Devin Singletary averaged over 5 yards a carry last year, and mind-numbingly enough, they didn't give him the ball. They kept trying to divvy up the carries in that backfield. He proved last year, especially at the end, when they gave him the ball, he was the best running back on that team. So a lot of people are going to reach for Cook this year.
What about
We know
Moss?
how this works. We know how this works. Singletary, third year in, he is going to be the beneficiary. He is going to be the guy to own in that backfield. And in that offense with Josh Allen, you want to have the number one running back in that backfield, and you're going to get him for cheap.
Don't they have Moss as well, though?
Yeah, but Moss he proved last year he was supposed to be the thumper. He's the guy that they've been trying to have be the number one guy for a couple of years now. It's not going to happen. When they were on the field, Singletary is by far the better running back. Again, over 5 yards per carry when he played, and he didn't play a lot. So this year, I think it's going to be Singletary and Cook. I think Moss takes a back seat, and Singletary is going to be the guy that you want to own.
Matt, opinions?
I agree and I disagree to a point, because I do believe Devin is the back to own in the backfield there. But if we seen what they did last year, they transitioned into almost like a Kansas City offense to the point where they negate the run, and that they didn't even really use him. I remember games where he had like 5 carries for 70 yards and he never seen the ball again. And that is nice. It's sexy. A high octane offense scores a lot of points. I think they're going to even be better this year. But there's so many backs, like you said, King. If you can get Devin Singletary late in a draft, sure, but it's not something I'm going to target early. Hope that it pays dividends.
Okay, I'm moving over to Detroit for Cam Akers. Or no, is he in LA? I mean, he's in. Yeah.
And by the way, Swift would have been on this list, but I think everyone kind of knows who Swift is. And
that was me getting those two confused, and you knew that. That's what I was doing right there. Thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, Cam Akers, what are you going to look like? Cam Akers, he was 1 year off Achilles, like not even 1 year off an Achilles injury last year. And on that offense, with that offensive line, he had like the third most red zone attempts of any running back in the entire league. And again, this is another team that kind of went to him late, but it was never really carved out. This year, he's walking in coming off a Super Bowl victory, 2 years off an injury. And I mean, the arrow is going through the ceiling. So again, you look at an offense like the Rams, you know how much they want to run. Sony Michel is in Miami. Okay. Cam Akers is the guy. He is the future. He's going to, double his carries from last year. That is scary. That's absolutely scary. In that offense, with that coach, with that offensive line and those weapons all day, all night. And again, I think you're going to get him cheaper than some of the other stud backs.
You will. Matt?
I could talk all day about Cam Akers, but you touched on Sony Michel, and he is a very, very serviceable, durable back. He's been that way everywhere he went. And Miami got 2 linemen. They've got a high offense. I like the value of Sony Michel. Speaking of Cam Akers, he's electric. He holds the pull, and he's north. He can hit home runs. He's in a high octane. Cam Akers more than I do, Devin Terry by a long shot. And like you said, he came back from a significant injury, and he still looked like he had that burst. And now with an off season all alone there, I mean, Darrell Henderson's there, but he's not what Cam Akers is. Cam Akers is a special back, and he could be a Absolutely.
Okay, Ray, so you started off with 3 running backs. What do you have for us next?
Yeah, we're gonna hit on 3 wide receivers. Okay, kind of in the same vein. The 3 I'd like to discuss would be Rashad Bateman, Michael Pittman Jr., and Cortland Sutton.
All right. Let's start with who did you say first?
Rashad Bateman.
All right. The reason I'm there for him is we're talking about the guy on the Ravens that missed a lot of time last year. That seems to be the best route runner on the team. Am I wrong with that?
He's the best wide receiver, period. Hollywood Brown is gone.
Yep.
Hollywood Brown is no longer in the building. Rashad Bateman proved last year he's a complete wide receiver, even with Lamar Jackson's struggles. In fact, when Lamar went out, he actually did better. I mean, I'm not going to make a statement about Lamar right now, but the stats don't lie. Here's your number 1 alpha receiver from day one. Again, on a team that you know is going to be good. They run the ball. He's going to be open. He's going to get the looks. The target share at the end last year, he was dominant. Again, coming off injury that almost sidelined him for the whole year. I mean, he was out for more than half the year. So for Ricky to come in and do that from day one on a team like the Ravens that doesn't put people in too quickly, they like to take their time with their rookies and kind of they have a process. But this kid is the star. You're going to get him for cheap because everyone's going to be scared of Lamar. But you have all those catches from Hollywood Brown. They have to go somewhere. All those yards, all those touchdowns.
I agree. I agree with it. My only knock on him, and I haven't made any comments on any of the players really yet, is that my only knock on him would be they still need that the guy who takes the top off the defense. They're gonna still need that other guy. He's a great route runner, right? But I actually think they're putting too much of a workload on him. Kind of like when they just had Hollywood Brown. Like, in other words, you need to have 2 receivers. You got to give him somebody. Because, again, what he does, I think, is, again, he's a route runner. He's great hands, all this stuff. You know, it's not like he's slow. I'm just saying. I guess what I'm saying is I don't like this situation until there's 2 wide receivers other than a tight end. You know what I mean?
I agree they need somebody on the other side to take the pressure off of them. But in that offense, I don't necessarily believe you need someone to take the top off the defense. Because when you have a Lamar Jackson who's a rushing, you already have to kind of stand still on defense and anticipate. And
if you could take it deep and you have a rushing quarterback and a team that can run the ball with J.K. Dobbins, then you got to worry about, are they going to run on me, short yards, 10 yards here?
I agree. But I'm saying that's not necessarily what you're looking at when you have a Russian quarterback. You're more or less focused on him almost anybody back there, because you're already at a standstill looking. Like, you'll probably see people play more zone against Lamar, because in zone you're looking at the QB. You have to look at they call it looking at the magician. He's got the magic wand, the ball, and with that you can hit people in the middle and zones and spot.
Still, this kid's going to go deep. It's not like he's going to run just short routes. Bateman can get open deeper. My point, I guess, what I'm trying to say is, for you to truly get one guy open deeper, I feel like you need a second guy to get at least intermediary.
I think Mark Andrews is always going to be the number 1, but Bateman will be the number 1 receiver. But they definitely need someone opposite of Bateman for sure.
Like an old veteran.
It's funny because Lamar had an incredible second year, and I never thought he would transition well into the NFL from what he did from Louisville. He can't throw in space, but in the second year, he was actually throwing receivers open, and he stopped doing that. I don't think he reads defense as well. So I also think that's why Hollywood Brown was like, yeah. And it really sucks because, he would never see the contract that he feels he would be able to deserve. Imagine having to conform to that team and what they're expected. Hey, Lamar, I love you, but I need to go get 1,000. And it's funny because Hollywood Brown did actually make 1,000 yards, and how he did it in that offense is absolutely crazy. It's going to be tough. I wouldn't want to be a wide receiver in that offense.
Right, Nick. Who was the second one you said before? The guy from before Sutton,
Michael Pittman Jr.
Michael Pittman Jr. with the Colts, correct?
Yes.
All right. What makes you think from last year to this year there's a big jump?
Well, if you look at the end of the year, I mean, he was third in route participation in week 13 through the end of the season. And that was playing with a quarterback, let's be honest, and Carson Wentz, that really struggled at the end of the year. There's no more T.Y. Hilton. You have Matt Ryan now back in the fold, and we know how Matt Ryan likes those big wide receivers like a Julio. We know that's an upgrade at the quarterback position right there. And this kid at the end of the year, he was 8th in target share. Again, another kid where the arrow is just pointing up. T.Y. Hilton probably not going to return. He hasn't been re-signed. There's nobody else on the team to challenge this kid for target share and opportunity.
Let me say I agree with you on Michael Pittman Jr. Here's my issue. Getting excited about Matt Ryan as the quarterback is like Ray, mom telling us we're going to the park and we go to some place that just has like a bench and grass and old people. And that's it. That's the park. Like, oh, that's a park? Technically, that's a park. Oh, yay. That's how I am with Matt Ryan as a quarterback for the Colts. Oh, he's an upgrade of a Carson.
No way.
Yay.
Fantasy football he is. Fantasy football he's an upgrade. That's
you look at their
We're not talking about wins and losses. We're talking about fantasy football.
He might fall apart this year. He might not even make the whole year, Matt Ryan. He just turned 60. You guys got to be easy with him.
Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley were pretty good players with Matt Ryan.
I know.
Players.
I'm more worried with Matt Ryan than I am Pittman Jr. by far.
I'm a big fan and believer of Michael Pittman Jr., but he does have competition there with Zach Pascal and Paris Campbell. And Jack Doyle is always there, But anyway, I do believe Matt Ryan is going to make Pittman the focal point he deserves to be. He's very talented. And let's look at the competition that they play. Jaguars, Texans, and the Titans. And last I looked, the Titans are going to be struggling on offense, which is going to put pressure on that defense. So I love Matt Ryan. He's always been consistent. He might be the best quarterback in the South.
Zach Pascal and Parrish have been there for what? Those two guys have been on.
Not long. Paris Campbell was last year, and Zach
Pascal 2 years. I had him 2 years ago.
Paris Campbell can't stay healthy. He was last year was his second year out of Ohio State.
I had him 2 years
ago. He can't stay on the field. I mean, this kid, Pittman, he took the job last year. He emerged as the number one. There was no question at the end of the year who the best receiver on that team was. And I love Zach Pascal. I think he's a great number 2. But if we're talking about opportunity, talent, and getting that true alpha, this kid, that's what this kid is. And you'll get him cheap.
I get that. All right. Now, sell me on Courtland Sutton. That's the one I had the issue with.
Well, Courtland Sutton, if you look at that team, the way they're loaded at wide receiver right now, you add Russell Wilson to that team. They now have a legitimate quarterback in an offense that he knows very well. They're going to run the ball. They have 2 talented running backs, great offensive line. You would think the sky would be the limit for that passing attack. And you may say, well, yeah, there's Jerry Jeudy. There's other wide receivers there, but with Courtland Sutton, Patrick's another one that could be there as well, contribute. But if I'm looking at DK Metcalf on this team right now, and to me that has to be Courtland Sutton. If you look at his size and the way he can get open, you're going to get him cheap. Again, people are going to go after Jeudy. I'm not completely sold on Jeudy yet. I'll be honest. I'm not completely sold. I am sold on Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton has been a good player for a long time. He came off a big injury, played well last year. I think this year, 2 years off that injury, he's your DK Metcalf, and you can get him for pennies on the dollar.
Can I say something though? In the same breath, I think it's Jerry Jeudy's year this year. I think Jerry Jeudy is that good of a wide receiver, and I think this is finally the year that he gets that chance to put that all together. Like I will not lose faith in Jerry Jeudy. I would love to trade for Jerry Jeudy in a fantasy league. Like he's going to be a great wide receiver.
See, right? I kind of move along like Brother Ray does, right? I got a few Jerry Jeudy rookie cards, really nice ones too, if he pans out. I haven't even seen the makings of that. Like, I haven't seen anything that makes me think that he's going to, and I do believe if he's going to break out, it's going to be with Russell Wilson and it'll be with this year. And I like Cortland Sutton, but I just haven't seen it with Jerry yet. I haven't seen it, and it sucks because he was an outstanding Alabama receiver, and we've always thought the size would, trend up for the NFL and transition well, but I haven't seen even a little bit.
You remember last year though when Russ had that big wide receiver, the big guy? Yeah, he did pretty good. He did pretty good with Russ throwing the ball. I'm not saying Judy's DK. I'm just saying Judy's stock will go up. And Ray is right because Sutton's stock will also go up because if there's one receiver on that team that looks like the guy that Russell hit when he needs to hit him, it's Cortland Sutton. I just think Jeudy is like a could be a big time receiver if he gets going. That's what my thought is.
He does have all the talent, but he was the third best wide receiver on that team last year. Tim Patrick passed him. Tim Patrick and Sutton were the two top receivers on that team. Jeudy does have the talent. He's one of the best route runners to ever come out of Alabama.
It takes a receivers 2 years, 3 years, right?
It will be his third. That's usually the year. He could be. But I think you're going to get Jeudy a lot more expensive than Sutton.
There is a picking on it, and Brother Ray just touched on it. The Broncos love Tim Patrick, and deservingly so. He's been very good, and he's a downfield guy. So if you're Jerry Jeudy, you really are behind Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick right now. You are. There's a lot of wide receivers there, but he's got to earn his spot.
Yeah. No, I'm with that. I'm just saying. I guess I'm going. Man, I got to keep muting you. I'm sorry. If I got to go by like superstar potential, I go with Jeudy. If I go by better value in the draft and any fantasy draft, of course, Sutton's going to end up getting probably much better value, unless people have completely written off Jeudy. Which, you know what, with the way people draft. Out of 12 guys in your league, you got to consider 4 of them to be whack jobs, and they're going to make really weird decisions in the first couple rounds.
Probably more than that, but yeah.
No, but you have to at least imagine 4 out of 12 of the people you are drafting with are going to make some dumb decisions in the first couple of rounds, and overvalue guys they really shouldn't. Now, Ray, you got 3 more guys left on this. You've done 3 running backs. You've done 3 wide receivers.
Actually, I have 2 more. I want to touch on a tight end and a quarterback. And
so 8 total then, Ray. 8 total, right?
8 total. So I think with tight end, and again, you got to look at who do you think is going to make the biggest move? From a position where they had potential and they're just you think they're going to explode. And I think that's Cole Kmet. I think if you look at where he's coming back to this year, Jimmy Graham is gone. There's no touchdown vulture going to take any reps away from him. The kid has gradually gotten better and better each year. And yeah, you could say, there's questions at the quarterback position. But let's look at that team. I mean, that's a team that's going to concentrate on the tight end position. He has all the talent in the world. Think of Dawson Knox. Before going into last year, nobody gave Dawson Knox a second look. Okay. Mm-hmm. This kid has all the potential that a Dawson Knox has. And I think in that offense, he is going to be a touchdown machine. And we know with tight ends, and unless you have a Travis Kelce or a Mark Andrews, or someone of that nature, touchdowns are usually going to bail you out week after week. And I think in that offense, they're probably going to be playing from behind a lot of garbage yards, garbage touchdowns. I love Cole Kmet this year.
Here's what's funny about that, Ray. So you mentioned Cortland Sutton prior. I have a Cortland Sutton jersey for sale. If you look below at legitpodcast.com/shop, I have all my sports memorabilia up for sale. And then I do also have a full-size Cole Kmet. Now, what's weird is the place that I usually win all my memorabilia ultimate autographs, is located right in Chicago. So they're nonstop Bears talk, whether they want to or not. And the vibe that I get is they've been waiting for Cole Kmet to be the main tight end since the day he got drafted. And Bears fans have been furious at the way that they have not given Cole Kmet enough receptions. Like Bears fans are already past that. Like, see how you're saying like this is his year to break out? In that area, they're like, if he doesn't break out this year, we revolt. Like, so I kind of have a little bit of inside info on that. And it's true. Like, so if you listen to some, how you listen to Areas podcast when it like comes to a certain area, we're going to tell you stuff about the Patriots that's just true that you might not find out someplace else. Just kind of like they're listening to the whole beat over there in Chicago. And Cole Kmet has been the name they've been saying since he came in the door. But will he put it together, right? Because he's in Chicago still. That's the problem. He still plays for that team. You know what I mean? That team, their quarterback, their whole situation there is not good.
Opportunity. It's about fantasy football. Justin Fields is going to be playing a from behind script for the majority of the games. Someone's going to have to catch the ball. Someone's going to have to get the yards. Someone's going to have to get touchdowns, meaningless touchdowns. And if we're talking fantasy football, yeah, the team is a dumpster fire. We think as far as wins and losses, but they're going to score fantasy points, and Justin Fields is going to need someone who's a security blanket. Robinson's long gone. Who else besides Cole Kmet?
What running back out of the backfield do they have that's that will be good with receptions? Because that would be a secondary person to look up on that team, in my opinion. Like, who are their backs?
Well, I think all of their backs can catch the ball out of the backfield. I don't think that's a problem. But in the end zone, as far as red zone targets,
it should be Cole Kmet.
It's Cole Kmet.
Should be. All right, let's do the quarterback.
All right, and I've talked about this guy before, and I think you're going to get him cheaper too because everyone's going to panic about the draft. Guys, Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota is going to be a legitimate QB in this league this year, someone that you could get in the last round because no one's going to take a chance on him. They drafted Ridder in the draft, so everyone's going to say, well, Ridder's going to come in and take the job. That is not the case. Coach made that announcement as soon as they made the draft pick. Mariota, at the very least, is going to get you yardage on the ground. He's going to score in the red zone. And I think he's going to explode in this offense, an offense that he knows, an offense that he has played in. And he's had time to develop as a backup quarterback in this league. Whenever he's come in as a backup, he's excelled. I think if there was ever a time the light was going to go on, it's going to be right now in that offense. And I just like the way that offense is. They were very creative last year with not really good talent. They turned Patterson into an all-purpose Deebo Samuel type threat. I just love the arrow with this team. It's going up. They had a good draft. He's going to walk in at the very least. He's going to get you rushing yardage on the ground.
All right, two things. One, when did we start pronouncing his name that way? I thought it was Mariota.
Mariota.
Okay.
Potato,
Mariota. All right, so this guy Mariotti that you think he's going to have a good year coming back, all right? Mariota. I don't think he's ever been good there, Maramusa. He's not the guy that I think they want, Maramusa. Oh, but what I do think is you are onto something in the sense that they're going to sleep on him as hard as you can sleep on a starting quarterback in the NFL. He might be, other than Daniel Jones, the most slept on starting NFL quarterback next year in the fantasy drafts. I believe that because I don't think anyone's going to go out and grab him, right? You to be honest, right?
But
Matt, what round would you wait to take Maramusu?
I probably wouldn't, but like I normally play the kind of draft strategy. I go for a quarterback late So if I was to build my team like I normally do, I look for a quarterback that I think is going to be gem, and I think that it's proven time and time again that you can get like points very late, and that's called value. So if you can get your head of your team, the quarterback, and like Brother Ray was saying, rushing, if he gets 40, 50, 60 yards a game, which he will, and then you put a touchdown on top of it, you're looking at 11, 15, 20 points a week easily. And that's just at the minimum. Like the upside for rushing QBs, we always know about it. It's no different in this case. And like Brother Ray said, that he just touched on, and like they got Pitts too, and they're gonna build on that. Perfect. He's a perfect quarterback to do that with, like in that offense that they have, like such a gimmicky player.
I don't think Mo Marino's ever been that good, ever. But
no, he's decent. He's
all right.
decent.
Watch.
I don't. So another thing I want to touch on really quickly, Ray, you just ended with your 9. The genius is still lost somewhere in Oregon, the state of Oregon. But I want to touch on his don't draft a QB, draft receivers first draft scenario. Because I think if anything, last year proved to me this one thing. You draft what's available and what's the best value for you at that moment, no matter what position it is. Because I felt like after 4 or 5 QBs, because of touchdowns counting so much, the drop-off was much bigger than highly anticipated. So like the fact that I got Russ Wilson and then Tannehill is what made me survive that season and get hot at the end. Because my first round pick was Barry. Matt Stings had the feedback. I said Barry Sanders. It was Saquon Barkley. And he didn't even, you know what I mean? So that's what I mean. Like my first round pick at the legit was Saquon Barkley. He didn't even play. So like I think waiting to get a quarterback till the very end just for the sake of doing it makes no sense. If you get one of those guys that ends up in a spot where you can take them, like the kid from the Chargers, or like, you know what I mean? You get somebody that like, you're up top, you're going to get a guy that's going to ball. I'm still of mindset you take that Aaron Rodgers, you take that quarterback that's a step up from the next echelon of QBs. There's a lot of wide receivers. He made up it made a big difference, I thought, this year. What do you think, Ray, about the whole don't draft the QB thing?
I think it really depends on the draft itself and what is happening in front of you and what the other owners are doing. You want to zig when everyone else zags. So that can be if a quarterback is dropping, that's a stud. Yeah, you want to take advantage of that. If Travis Kelce or an Andrews is out there, you may go that route depending on what the other people are doing. But I don't think you can just walk into a draft like that and just say, I'm going to stick to this no matter what is happening around me. Because
that's what I'm trying to get at.
That's just not smart.
I think you have to go into every draft flexible. You have to have your certain like things in your mind. You won't go beyond your certain principles. But if you're not flexible, if you're not willing to take a quarterback first, if you end up in some stupid position where that's the only sense that you make the most sense, then it's, you know what I'm trying to say? To purposely take a person and that's going to be less in value because, I plan later on it's like what you say in the playoffs, right? Start the studs. In the draft, get the guys that are great first, and then make your home run hits, your surprise picks at the end. But don't get too cute early and skip on a guy to go for somebody that you think is going to do better than like what everyone else says. Matt, thoughts?
It's tough, right? Because as I agree and understand what you guys are saying, I look at my situation and just say the legit league last year, right? In the 5th round, I take Lamar Jackson. I had this just gut feeling he was going to be great for fantasy, and I was right for like 6 games, right? Say we're talking about Marcus Mariota this year. Say I draft a stud wide receiver or running back in the 5th round instead of taking Lamar, and I take a Marcus Mariota late. I fill that position, get almost the same value. And I think Marcus Mariota, like I was going to even say, I was going to go out on the limb. If you put him in the Ravens system, I think you get kind of the same production, and if not, better QB accuracy out of Marcus than you do Lamar. I know you do. But say with the draft strategy that I took last year with taking Lamar in the 5th round, and I fill my team and my team needs and be late. I do agree. You got to kind of go. I always say you have to go with the flow of the draft. You have to. You can't walk draft thinking this is what I'm going to do.
You can't be set in stone.
Yeah.
I think what sports in general is teaching us, if you're paying attention, is that you can't be set in stone ever in sports. You have to constantly be able to evolve. And just like fantasy sports, you can't go in like you. Of course, you can go in with the plan that I don't like to take quarterbacks early if I don't have to. If I keep seeing these 3 quarterbacks slip, I'm not drafting a quarterback. I get that. That's a plan. But what I'm saying is to go in and say I'm just not taking this position no matter what. That doesn't make sense to me anymore. Because last year that would have made a lot of people
value that drops in your lap and you don't take it. You're a fool. You know, if there's a top QB sitting in your lap and you're going, I'm just not going to do that.
Second thing I want to touch on for fantasy football, and you guys will understand this, is the draft and draft day. Ray, I want you to do I wish this year you could do a whole like mini documentary on you getting ready for the fantasy draft. Like just show you doing the studying and then show you waking up in the morning and you're reading the paper early in the morning and you're circling guys. You know what I mean? The day of the draft, you're up early stretching, yawning, whatever. You're out for the jog, getting ready for the draft. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing with you. Yeah. But what I want to talk about is certain things. Some people make draft picks so that the people in the room will tell them that they made a good draft pick. I'm going to say that that's a fact because I know that there's people like that. I just won't name their names, but they want to make a good draft pick so people will tell them, hey, that's a good draft pick. Agree or disagree?
No,
right?
That's absolutely true. Yeah, someone, in that first round, like some of the guys I mentioned today, a lot of the guys I mentioned today, please don't take them in the first round. Like, let me get this clear right now to all our viewers. These are guys that you can get at a value. Not in the first round, probably not even in the second round. So you got to be smart and you got to build your team, and then you add these value picks. The drafts are not won in the first 2 or 3 rounds. The drafts, leagues are won.
But if you blow it, with the first 2 or 3 rounds, if you completely whiff, you're in big trouble. You're behind the 8 ball.
I don't know about that. You could have none of those 3 players ever play and still win. You can win a championship.
But then I could also walk outside and have a gorilla fall out of the sky and kill me. That's the same logic.
I selected auto select CJ Spiller one year, and I think my second round pick didn't even make it. And we're talking this like that, and it didn't look good. I still won the championship. It's through the back end of the draft and waiver pickups. We all know waiver pickups are huge.
Agreed. But what I'm saying is, I think the first 3 rounds you got to hit on 2 or 3 if you want to have like a year where you win the Super Bowl, or like 1 out of 3 at least if you want to make the playoffs. You have to in the first 3 rounds. If you whiff on all 3 of those first 3 round picks, you're screwed because there's not going to be no Rex Burkhead there waiting for you if you're genius enough to go, hey, I'm going to pick up Rex Burkhead this week. I bet you get a lot of balls. And then boom, Rex Burkhead goes off, and next thing you know, you win the championship. I mean, there's not that many geniuses out there. Now, Ray, what do you think? You out of the top 3, your first 3 picks, how many should you hit on? At least.
You know what? I think both of you are right. I think I think with every pick you have to be disciplined, stick to the board, and stick to what's going on. Be strong in your convictions, because even if you make all perfect picks, you could make 12 incredible picks, the best picks possible, and you still may not win the championship because of injuries, because of the team. There's a million other factors that come into play once you get into the season. But when you're drafting, you just have to be strict and adhere to your board, adhere to your philosophy, and don't like make the best pick when you're making that pick. And you may fan on the first 3 rounds, but obviously you want to hit the first 3 rounds.
All right, but here's the other issue I have. So some guys will end up having a bevy of picks, like yourself included most years, Stefano, Steve, and some guys will make generic, boring picks at all these early round selections based on last year's projections, putting no
Yeah.
thought into this year at all. You know what I'm
Facts.
trying to say? They almost take the top name on the list type thing. So it's like that to me is a waste of all those early picks you had because you just went by like what they're saying you should take next. You're not
Yeah.
like, what's the point of having that many picks? Why did you do all that trading in the first place to just take generic guys?
Yeah.
And it's not Brother Ray that does that. He'll reach every now and then, but they're just some guys that it's like, well, why have so many picks? I don't get it. Make sense?
Oh yeah, I mean, we always have like if you do these these drafts online, you always got a few people that don't show up, and if that was the case, those people who are always doing the auto drafts, they would win every freaking time, but they don't because the next the next name up isn't always the best name. You have to strategically look at it like Brother Ray was saying. This guy X player is gone now. These targets are going here. That's the way you got to look at this. Coach now does what? He focuses on the run. He focuses on this position. It's, you can't look at last year because there's so much transition. You have to look at this year.
If you only look at last year's production in the fantasy league website that you're in's predictions, you're not doing enough work.
Absolutely
but I'm willing to bet you there's enough guys that's their work. They look up what the guy did last year, and they look at what his projections are. They're good enough with that. They start making their lists top to one of wide receivers, running backs, taking no consideration of who's there, who's not there. What's the system like now? What's the system is different? What's the quarterback situation? How's the defense? They're playing from behind. What the hell is going to go on? You know what I mean? How
much value do you put in Derrick Henry? He had a significant injury. Sure, he came back. But is he healthy? Are you going to put a first-round pick in Derrick Henry? Are you?
I would.
Instead of, people look at production, they need to be looking at projection. All right. And projection is made based on, of course, production, but several other factors. So you can't just look at production and say, okay, obviously Derrick Henry is a stud, but you know what? You can't go based on production. You got to look at projection, and there are a lot of other things that prove that.
But not just what that website shows you as their predictions for projections.
Hold on.
You know what I mean?
Speaking of Henry King, hold on. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just started thinking about this. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about the change in the scenery last year. Derrick Henry has the absence of A.J. Brown and Julio Jones to deal with, and now that ball, that circumference is so much tougher to deal with. They're going to flood the line. Do you get that value out of Derrick Henry with the offense suffering?
Dude, Derrick Henry's one of those guys, right? That I would never bet.
10 yards.
They could start 15 guys on defense. I still think he'd get 3.5 yards a carry. I really do. Like that guy, when I watch him run, like there's not a lot of people I wish I could be like run like or be like athletically, but I'm like, man, to be built like him and just have one run where you just run straight and you just hear grown men going, ooh, as you just like running them over and running them by. Like only Earl Campbell did it any more ferocious.
But he's now got a chink in the armor. That's the first time we've seen him with a significant injury. And now he's got I think there's a transition at the guard there too. So Ryan Tannehill is going to get a few games and he's going to suffer. And then they're going to bring, in the kid.
The whole time.
So, sure that leads to a run dominant offense, which got your first round pick. But does it transition to scores?
Tannehill says he's not there to help anybody.
I think Matt's right. If Malik Willis takes the reins of that offense, he's a running quarterback, whereas Ryan Tannehill is not. So you could have a situation where Henry is losing red zone touchdowns to Malik Willis.
I don't think it'll happen. I think Henry might get a hold of him in a huddle and be like, dude, on this RPO, if you do not give me the ball, right, next play, I will take you with me. I'll just pick you up and run with
6'3",
you.
250. I think he'll listen to it. 6'3",
He'll be like,
250.
Short thing. Hand it off. Like, you know what I mean? That kind of shit must go on in the NFL. There's got to be times like that.
Yeah.
So, guys, coming up in the last 10 minutes, I have a quick non-basketball question I want to ask you guys just once, because it seems like for some reason this conversation starts up every year. But this year it's really gaining some speed because there's a lot of young players coming out speaking on LeBron's behalf. But I just saw a whole string of new interviews of older players being asked the question. And the way they explained it is it's who is the better NBA player and the best of all time, LeBron James or Michael Jeffrey Jordan?
It's disgusting. I won't even.
Come on.
I want to hear you answer it once because it's been asked now way too much on sports talk, and we have yet to address the trick. I want to make sure we all know we're on the same page here. Is there anybody that would say anybody else but Jordan?
Absolutely not.
Here's where I get sick with it, right? I'm watching guys like Iverson say, so is Mike playing in today's rules where they can't hand check him and push him and bump him and all that stuff? They're like, yeah. Oh, easily 45, 50 a game. You got guys, all these guys, Reggie Miller, all these guys going, Mike, with these rules, 40, easy, 40, maybe 50. They're like literally saying, because they go like, well, and then they all said the same thing. Well, what did Harden average? And they're like 37. And they're like, oh, Mike would score way more than him.
50.
And Mike didn't even shoot threes. But the thing is that Mike would get to the rim now. No one would stop him. You can't do it to him. He'd be at the free throw line. So you can't even hand check him. Matt, he became so much.
He became a great jump shooter, and
he did. He did.
The line wasn't there for a lot of his time. And when he became a great outside jump shooter,
they just didn't shoot threes. That's how the NBA was.
He had like 70-something%. He was unbelievable outside.
Well, yeah, he averaged at one point 1 3 a game. He wasn't out there shooting threes in regular season. The thing with Jordan was he was always going to the rim and scoring. Never mind the mid-range jumpers. So if you couldn't touch him or bump him like they used to before, don't forget how strong he was, how high he used to get before the basket. Like every time, LeBron gives you that maybe once a game. Mike would do it every chance he got to the rim. Wham! Bam! Bam! Right.
Plus, add if he was playing under the rules today, give them 3 more rings at least, because Detroit would have never ever been able to do to the Bulls what they did. I mean, they basically mugged him. They mugged him on a game by game basis. Take that away, 3 more rings.
6 times in the NBA Finals, 0 losses compared to the other guys. Right?
He'd have 9 rings by now easily. If
never been to a game 7 apparently. Right? Never been to a game 7. He's won everything before a game 7. That's crazy.
I don't understand the comparison. That I don't understand.
There was guys talking about how they were scared to go on the floor that day, like to meet him for the first time. How you're out there and you don't want to say anything. Like the best one was Reggie Miller in a preseason game. Start scoring on him early. He talked shit to him at halftime, and Jordan's looking at him. Jordan comes out playing the preseason game, drops like 30 or 40 points on him. And as they're walking off the court, Jordan says to him, "You don't ever speak to Black Jesus like that." And Reggie Miller goes, "I didn't know." So I just started going like, I'm my bad. The other one was, the best story was, this guy comes down, Jordan scores on this kid that he's going up against. He comes down, kid goes to shoot, right? Jordan blocks him. Jordan comes back down, scores the kid fouls him, right? And I forget who's telling the story, but he's standing on the line. And Jordan looks at the guy and goes, before he shoots the free throw, he goes, "You know what? You should take my damn shoes off." He's like, "You're so bad." And then shot. And the other guy's like, "What the fuck? What do you mean take his shoes off? Why would he go take his shoes off?" Then he realized the guy was wearing Jordans. The guy he was schooling was wearing his sneakers. So before a free throw, he told him to go take his sneakers off.
There's a good Kevin Garnett story, too, when Kevin was a rookie with the Wolves. There's another player on the team who's really good. They're
J.R.
actually
Ryder.
beating- Yeah, they're
J.R.
beating
Ryder. It
Chicago.
was Isaiah Ryder.
Unbelievable. They're beating Chicago. And so
Nice
Barnett
talk.
starts talking trash. Yeah, you get it. You take it to him.
You got him.
And then the guy's like, whoa, no, take it
Ryder's
easy.
like,
He's like, no, you got it. We got this. Jordan stopped at one point. He said, looked at him, looked at the veteran player, was like, is that how it's going to be?
yeah, J.R. Ryder.
And he scored like 30 points in
Yeah.
the second half.
He was
And
so
Barnett's
pissed.
on the bench going, sorry, man. Sorry. My bad. Sorry.
He said, don't ever talk to a guy I'm playing ever again. Ever. Anybody that I'm playing, don't ever talk to them again. Dude, I'm just saying, like, we got to call as we got to call. Like, you know, legit podcast, legit fantasy sports. We got to stand up for this. Like, it got too ridiculous because it was almost worst part is then they got reaction videos of LeBron fans watching Michael Jordan highlights for the first time. And it's like, kid, you look like you're over 18. You mean you've been playing basketball, watching LeBron your whole life? You've never seen Michael Jordan highlights? And you were born with the internet? Are you kidding me? Like, that doesn't even count as a basketball fan. If you're a boxing fan, Ray, like we're boxing fans, the three of us, we like to go back through time through old fights. There's nothing better than to do that. It's more fun than going forward sometimes. So what the hell is up? How do you not know Jordan if you know LeBron? I digress. Ray, give me really quick 2 teams you think might be the shockers this year. Surprise playoff teams. They may not win the whole thing, but give me an NFC, AFC team you think that you think, oh, this is a year they're going to be different than the last couple of years. And if you want to second the guess, I'll give Matt first, but you can go ahead first, Ray.
I'll give you one NFC team right now.
NFC, AFC.
That I really like, and I think a lot of people are going to be down on them. I'm going to say the New Orleans Saints. I think if they have some consistency at the quarterback position this year, he comes back healthy. They added some weapons at the wide receiver position. They get Michael Thomas back, Jarvis Landry on that team. They drafted the kid from Ohio State with their number 1 pick. They have a solid defense. It's a new coach who's been there. He's not brand new. He's been in the building for several years. That defense is top 5 defense in the league. You know they can run the ball if Kamara doesn't get suspended. That's a team I think could walk out of the South and win that division.
All right, and then Ray, you got an AFC team to look out for, or
I'll let Matt go first. Let me think.
Matty, you got an AFC or an NFC team to look out for?
I got both of my teams locked, loaded, and ready to go. You want NFC or AFC?
Go ahead, you first. Whatever you want.
I think my AFC Titan, and I've been saying this, is the Miami Dolphins. I think that the Bills, I think they control the division, and I think that they go on such a long run to start the year that we start to take them very seriously as a player in the AFC East. I don't think that they're a sleeper. I think they come in ripping and romping. And my NFC is the Vikings. How do you have DJ Chalk DJ Chalk as your number 3 and Dalvin Cook as your running back? This league is transitioning into a score. And we know that the Vikings, Kirk Cousins got to fend off Kellen Mond. I think he does. I think he continues to put up fantasy numbers like we've always seen. And with DJ Chalk as your number 3, it's huge. It's huge. So stop him. Try it.
Yeah, and I think those are 2 really good teams. The other team in the AFC, I would have to say, because I don't see anything wrong with them, is the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
I think that's a team that's solid now at every single position on the field. I mean, their defense, again, another top 5 defense. No major changes there. Offense should be a lot better with Russell Wilson in the fold. Great offensive line, 2 great running backs.
So
Loaded at the wide receiver position. I know they lost their tight end in that Seattle trade, but Albert O is going to be a sleeper tight end this year. He comes back healthy. There's not a lot not to like. I mean, what can you not like with that team? I mean, they're solid everywhere.
So let me give you my 2. The Broncos were going to be my 1A, 1B of the East, but instead of them, I'll go with the other team. I think this is the year the Patriots win the division with Mr. Mac Jones here on his supernatural rookie. They will win the AFC East. The Patriots were really good last year for what he had going on. He's going to make them better. That kid's going to settle in one more year. They're going to win that division. The Patriots are going to be the biggest surprise out of the AFC. In the NFC, there's no way, no how I am not saying the New York Football Giants, because I am guaranteeing that the Giants will be better this year. Just the fact that they kept that kid Davis Webb as like a QB, like to hang out with Daniel Jones. Just the fact that Dayball's got it right, the offensive coordinator's got it correct. Shane has just shown that he knows how to run a business and he knows what football is supposed to be in 2022. You know what I mean? They added Evan Neal, who like they were asking one of the veteran offensive linemen, like what do you think of Evan Neal? And he's like, he's massive. He's absolutely massive. He goes, once he gets his hands on you, he's like, I don't care who you are in this league, you will not be able to get away from him. Because he's like 6'7", 6'8", or whatever. He's 3 chains. Like, so Evan Neal is going to be a great right tackle. He's just got to learn, I guess, getting used to the backpedaling again because he played left tackle last year. Either way, with all the weapons, and that kid, by the way, Wandale Moore, holy Christ, in training camp, he's phenomenal. He makes slants and he's gone. He's like him and Tony on the field at the same time is a nightmare if they can both run different routes, right? And then the defense is better. Just even getting what's his face. Just getting him, Thibodeau. If you get a healthy Thibodeau on the field, with Ojolari, what?
The Cardinals have Rondell Moore.
No, Wandell with a W.
Oh, is he really good? Is he really good?
From Kentucky.
Where he come from? Draft this
wide
year?
receiver. Second round, he's like a second round pick from he's called Mr. Kentucky. Wandale Moore. He's like a Tyreek Hill type guy. Like he's almost like Kadarius Toney, but he's more like he scored more. He runs better routes, and the kid was destroying it in training camp. And then, so the biggest issue with the Giants is going to be the secondary. It's going to be, can they sign one more veteran cornerback? If it's injuries, they don't have to deal with things. But what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that I think with that coaching staff, the way that they're going to have it set up, with just the talent that they have, with having, I think it's the easiest schedule in the league or the second out of all the schedules, the Giants will be the most improved. They're going to win like 8 games.
What are you thinking, King? Maybe another win?
They're going to win 8 games. They are. Because you got to think, if they play the other 6 games come from between the Commanders, if that's what they're called, that team in Philly, and the Cowboys.
Hold on.
They'll split 6 of those, and then they got a bunch of easy games.
The team in Philly added 8 rounds. You're not worried about that?
Worried about what?
That team in Philly, AJ Brown.
Not at all. No, because they're still gonna let that kid play quarterback. As long as they let that kid play quarterback, we'll be fine. I said that already.
The biggest threat to the Giants is the Eagles and the Cowboys.
I think it's the Commanders, and I've been saying that all along. I think it's the flip-flop. I think the Eagles and the Cowboys end up in the bottom of the division, and if the Commanders can get the quarterback position anywhere near straight at any point, they've got all the tools on defense and offense line to back to be a great team too, with a great coach. So I really think the 2 fundamentally better teams will be the Giants and Commanders. There you go. There's my big upset for the whole thing. Matt, what do you say to wrap it up? Season 3, week 1.
I gotta say this. I didn't just say it right before the NBA Finals in January when the Celtics were just punking the Phoenix Suns. Started to see the tide turn. We were talking about when Tatum was going to be a great an NBA leader.
I will give you officially before the playoffs started. You said they were going to go to the championship.
It was way before they even took the second seed. Even make their run yet. It was definitely mid-January when I made that prediction that they were going to be doing what they were doing. I always looked at them as matching up well against Warriors. I never had them as the dog in this series, and I always had them win game 1, and I've been winning a lot of money on them all playoff long, and I don't know where they are today. You might think that Golden State responds, but It could be a short series, guys. I think it could be
No.
a short series.
Can I reply to that really quick right before your last words? Look, first, if I have to say that again, it's the NBA playoffs, NBA championship, NBA finals. This is going as long as the referees and the NBA can massage it to go. If they got to put one of your main guys again in foul trouble, they'll do it. Just like they had to extend the last series to get it up to 7. I'm just letting you know. Like the Warriors and Celtics will go 7. And the most messed up thing is on the betting site that I use, the one that Ken does just whatever it is bet on. The highest odds for the division for the series to end in the Celtics' favor is 4-3. Like you would get lower odds if you picked them to win 4-1 or 4-2. No, actually it was 4-1 and 4-0 were the lowest odds. And 4-3 and 4-4, 4-3 was the highest. Like, why is 4-3 the most, like, why does it get the highest odds? Ray, why does 4-3 have the highest odds? I see it going 4-3 either way.
Because they expect the Golden State to come back. I mean, the Celtics won game 1, but, that mainly because of the second half, Golden State collapsed and Al went absolutely crazy. I mean, Tatum had a bad game, so that's positive for Celtic fans. But I think everyone is expecting Golden State to bounce back. And don't forget, home court advantage means nothing in the NBA playoffs anymore. It means absolutely nothing. The Celtics could very easily lose one, if not both, at home.
Here's my issue with the series on that too. I felt like that last game, it was going to teeter-totter like it did, and one team was going to make a mistake, one team wasn't. It was going to go one way. But I could have easily saw it go the other way. Easily. That's why I'm so worried about a game like this. Like where the matchups are, if one team just gets hot at the right time, they beat that other team. So I think Warriors do win today. The Warriors will win today. And you're going to get a 7-game series. And I'm going to go one more further. I think the Warriors win the series 4-3 when all said and done. So if you want to know what I would tell you to bet on right now by watching the game, take the Warriors 4-3 in the series. Go ahead.
Listen, the reason why the highest odds are 4-3 is because it's the most unrealistic of them all right now. Listen.
Yeah, based on home court.
Home court is with Boston right now. Basically, after you just watched the unbelievable game 1, the Warriors were hitting at a historic rate. Stephen Curry was 7 out of 8 for 3-pointers in the first quarter alone. The Celtics were there every step of the way. They led 54-52 at halftime. They led in the third quarter, and they entered the fourth and down 12. I never believed for 1 second that they weren't in the game. And I was saying on Facebook. That.
Yeah,
I said, hold on. They're 8-2 on the road, King. Hold on. They're 8-2 on the road. Like brother was saying, back in the day, when you won a game on the opponent's court, it was over. You didn't do that. You didn't win on the opponent's court. But that loss very significant to the Warriors, even with the experience, because they did so well and threw everything but the kitchen sink at them and still lost big.
What if I told you whoever wins tonight?
One more minute, more seconds. The fact that they double teamed Jason Tatum and he had a 3 for 17 output. Now with the other guys for the Celtics doing what they now have to lessen up the double teams on Tatum. Expect for a big night for Tatum. They can't go with that game plan that they did in game 1.
So Ray, what if I told you whoever wins tonight wins the series?
Yeah, I mean, I understand what Matt's saying, but he's got to understand that Golden State has been shooting like that all year. Like that's not a fluke. That's what they do. They just come out, they take more shots than anyone else, and they usually hit more shots than anyone else. I think whoever wins tonight, again, I think it's going to go either way. I still don't know who's going to win this thing. I mean, Celtics got game 1. That's great, but I don't think that's going to deter Golden State at all.
Let me ask you this. So far, which team throughout the playoffs has been depending on people that don't usually produce at the level they're producing more. Celtics awards. That's the Celtics, easy, right? They've had guys, all kinds of guys step up. What happens when those guys, though, can't step up for a game? Or they don't step up? Ray, you understand what I'm saying? Like, who you're depending on makes a difference in a
let
game.
me just say, obviously Al Horford had a big game. You don't expect him to go 6 from 8 from 3. However, Tatum having a bad game, that's pretty rare. And I think Golden State's going to continue, Matt. I think you're wrong. I think it did work, and I think they're going to continue doing that again because they know Al Horford's not going to go 6 from 8 from 3-point land. I take Tatum out of the game. Bill Belichick, right? What would he do? He would go right at Jason Tatum.
Let Horford beat us again.
I'm going to tell you on why the Warriors lost that game.
Is he talking? Oh, wait a minute.
You're muted, Matt. Matt, you're muted.
Did you unmute yourself? No, don't touch it. You did it again. Don't touch it. There you go.
Here's an inside scoop on why the Warriors really lost that game.
All right.
Stephen Curry was so hot. Steve Kerr sat him coming out the second half, but God knows why, and allowed them to come back into the game. But we here. The Warriors are 17th in rebounding. And the reason why I think that the Celtics would have had bigger matchup problems against the Pirates than they did against the Warriors is because of the size and the physicality. And I think that's what you can see in the first quarter, first half, and the shooting. I do believe Brother Ray's right. They high rates like that all the time, but it plateaued. And the reason why is the defense of the and the nerve. Like listen, when I watched that game and the first 2 free throw shots of Jay clunk, you knew that kid was nervous. And then his team picked him up. You see Jason Tatum having another performance like that. And I do believe that the pressure is now on Golden State with the defense is number 1 with the Celtics compared to the Warriors have a decent defense. The Celtics have an elite defense. And I said it to a kid who is a huge Golden State Warrior fan. I go, what's going to shock you is the Celtics have just as many shooters. He goes, now I know nothing about basketball.
All right. So listen.
Hold on. Game 1, if there was one thing we seen, is the Celtics have just as many shooters as the Warriors do.
All right. See, I disagree. I'm going to disagree with that there. They don't have the type of shooters that Golden State does. I don't think anyone in the history of time has ever had shooters like Golden State kind of has on the floor. And secondly, as a person who's coached basketball, played basketball, understands the game, everything about it, I would go back in the locker room and say to my team, you're doubling him again next game. Let Al Horford beat us again. That's all I would say to the guys. Because let Al Horford shoot another 6 for 8 from threes. We're doubling Tatum.
Defend, he's a liability. Curry's a liability of Draymond. And the thing is Boston has defense at players at every position. Maybe Jaylen Brown, but he's still decent. They have the defense, and they shooters have the shooters. The reason why they have the shooters is they play with spacing. The spacing that they have is second to none, and they get the ball. And that was the best thing that Tatum did. Is he was like 2 years ago, last year, Brown and Tatum are shooting through the double team. And they continue. At least he noticed it, and he passed the ball. And when you got the secondary, now you got to respect them. Have to, or they will. They'll burn you.
Did Matt say 2 years ago last year? Right.
What's that?
Exact words 2 years ago last year. If you go back and you look at the recording at 1 hour and 13 minutes, I think Matt said 2 years ago last year.
No, 2 years ago, all last year. They would have lost that game.
Last year. I was like, holy shit, years ago and back. Guys,
they would have been doing the same thing they always did. They're gonna break them up. They wanted to keep shooting through the double team. They wanted to, Brown and Tatum.
But guys, this was week 1 of season 3 for Legit Fantasy Football. Matt likes the Celtics. Raymond gave you some fantasy players to target in later rounds of the draft. We are just getting going. We will start the breakdown of the teams soon, the divisions, and then eventually you'll be getting our predictions. So, thank you guys again for everyone that's listening to us. Jesus Christ, the Legit Podcast Instagram account went up to 2,000. The goddamn TikTok one's up to about almost 2,000. I'm getting like 500 people looking at videos of our TikTok stuff. The Paranormal's helping us out with that, but it's spreading all across the board. So that's why I want to thank everybody. This is the bedrock of the Legit Podcast. This is Plymouth Rock. This is where it all started. This is the Alpha, the Omega. So for the Codfather M1 Mashadamas, Matt, Brother Ray, it's me, Mike, King Mike L. This is Legit Fantasy Football from legitpodcast.com. Thank you so much for watching. Tonight at 7:05, it's a Legit Paranormal. We'll see you then. Good night. Oh, good.